Ladies and gentlemen, we do not have enough fun around here, and we're going to start changing that now with a new segment called Viewers Voluptuous Vents. We are going to venture to vigorously vindicate and vilify the voluminous, vandalous, and vainglorious, though sometimes very virtuously voracious, viewer voices vaunted voluntarily at v.anarchast.com. What I mean is, we have a viewer submission form for links, for URLs, for video clips, for writing things where you disagree with me and want to tell me what you think, or agree with me and want to add context that you thought was important. Tell me things, share current events or information or memes occasionally, only if they're really good. Don't spam me. Or I'll have to stop doing this. But that's what we're going to try doing occasionally when we get some good submissions. So go check out the website, v.anarchast.com. Let's get into the submissions that we've gotten so far, starting with the Twitter. This is a man named Richard Wolff, who is a filthy communist.
Final question to you, Professor Wolff. Under your system of worker cooperatives, would I still get my PlayStation 5?
Absolutely. You'd have to struggle a little bit for it. You'd have to talk to your fellow workers. You'd have to talk about the distribution of income. You'd have to compare your desire for PlayStation against all the other interests of all the other people. It wouldn't be something you worked out on your own with your particular boss in any way. It would have to be a democratic decision. You'd have to come to terms with that the way you do with democratic decisions now in our society, to the extent that we have them.
Final question to you.
Can you even imagine you want a PlayStation so that you can entertain yourself when you're not working in the communist utopia that this guy thinks exists or could exist ever? And you can't just go and take your money and go buy something that you want that makes you happy. You would have to petition the commune to talk to the collective to see if it's an appropriate allocation of the people's resources. Are you kidding me? First of all, how demeaning, how childlike to have to go and beg Daddy Collective to buy you a PlayStation. How absurd and silly, but worse than that, it would never happen. Think about every socialist system you've ever heard of that currently exists. What's one of the first things that happens when things get collectivized? Supply starts to dry up and demand overrun supply. And that's for everything. And if you think the Central Planning Committee is going to have enough spare resources to allocate a fund for everybody that once wanted to get a PlayStation, you're kidding yourself. They're going to be trying to keep people out of bread lines. Furthermore, there probably wouldn't be a Sony PlayStation factory. If there was, it would be one of the most dysfunctional, crappy PlayStation devices you have ever seen. Because no one would be motivated to really do a good job because people either couldn't be fired, would have no incentive to do a good job, would have no incentive to study really hard to figure out how to build PlayStations or code for games to play on them. With the incentives taken away, as you know, and this is not me sort of like making stuff up about the future for an ideology that I hate because it's despicable and disgusting and filthy, but we see this in socialist systems. When you remove these incentives, it falls apart. The people that are competent and are really good get ran out because they make the other workers look bad. These structures based on community ownership just constantly fail, and they survive to the extent that they're able to just barely survive, not because they're able to thrive or produce amazing products. So not only was your PlayStation probably not be something that you'd even want, you couldn't even get permission from the collective to spare the resources for them, because that would make you privileged ahead of the people trying to get bread, to not starve to death in the bread line. This next video clip was submitted by a viewer named Phobes, who asked me to take a look at it and comment on it. Apparently there was some bad takes on what it means to be libertarian, or what the libertarian position is. So let's take a listen.
Yes, because the right is starting to conclude that the principles in the worldview and everything that they believe, right? The whole political philosophy of right-wing politics in the American tradition, which is built on classical liberalism. It is not right-wing tradition in the European sense.
Yeah.
Right? The American tradition of the right is now because there is a somewhat libertarian bent in that. Going all the way back to the founding fathers. The right is starting to conclude, rightly or wrongly, and I think in some ways actually rightly, although it's also a bit of a tragedy, is that their own principles and their own political philosophy are being used and exploited in order to crush them. And so how, at that point, what do you do? Well, some of them...
Their own ideas and principles are being used against them because there's a flaw in their fundamental ideas, which put them in the same arena as the left, which is, it's kind of socialist, bro. And what I mean by that is Republicans are socialist light. They're reluctant socialists, but still very much socialists. Try and attack any collective institution supported by the right, and you'll see exactly how vociferous they defend their socialism. Socialist ideas are inconsistent and undefendable when you put them up against next to individual rights. They fall apart. They're exposed for the vile violence that they are when they're next to our ideas, the libertarian principles. So the left exploits sort of a weakness in their own side. The left exploits a desire to be consistent in the right's principles, which is good. Let me be clear. It's good to have rational justifications, reason and evidence for one's positions. That's good. That's a good thing about the right. Unfortunately, the positions that they hold are anything but rational based on reason and evidence. So the left is able to exploit them by pointing out that contradiction, to use their own positions against them. What do you mean you don't approve of welfare? You guys support Social Security. You guys support Medicaid and, oh, you know, police paychecks. You don't want to get rid of all the state police, do you, Republicans? It's super easy to tie them in knots, and this guy's apparently sick of that. So what's the solution? To refactor and refine one's positions, or to just stop caring as much about reasoned arguments? Let's see what he says.
Just double down and, you know, put their heads in the sand. But others are like, well, I guess we got to reevaluate what we believe, or you know what, maybe we should stop focusing on theory and start focusing on outcomes. The
siren call of principle leaving the discussion. We see this with all of the self-titled post-libertarians. There's no such thing as post-libertarians. It's just them turning around and going back the other direction towards statism and away from the principles of liberty. But they want to call it post-libertarian as if there's something beyond that. The first thing that you'll hear a post-libertarian say is that people are stuck in the theory. They're not living in the real world. They're living in Anarchistan in their heads, for example. These libertarians aren't serious and they never accomplish anything because they're too hung up on principle. So we need to be pragmatic, which just means we need to sacrifice our principles to actually control the world and make the world into what we want. How? Well, government. We're not going to talk about the fact that, you know, that's violence and that's coercion against people, and that makes us, the bad guy, no better than the other people that are trying to do the same thing with government.
It gets into the phrase, and we need to talk more about this, to be honest. The whole concept of the purpose of a system is what it does, not what it claims to be for, right? And so a good
I brought this up recently, and since I brought it up recently, I've seen it all over the internet, and I'm not saying that I introduced it to the internet by any means. It's been around for a long, long time. 1970s, I think. I don't know. But anyway, the guy that created it, it got a bad bumper sticker because the bumper sticker doesn't make sense, and what he actually meant does. The purpose of a system is what it does, is false, is nonsense. Purpose is something that only humans can apply, can project on to a system. Systems don't have inherent purposes in reality. They just function. They just are. It's we who look at something and say, oh, see that piece of metal shaped that way? That's a hammer. Its purpose is to hit nails. We made that up. In reality, it's just a hunk of metal. Anyway, I'm being pedantic, but that's what I do. So unsub if you don't like it. What the actual guy that made that, the purpose of a system is what it does, saying up, actually meant, it doesn't make sense to claim that the purpose of a system is other than that which it does. You can hopefully see the important difference there. You can't say, it's called essentialism is what I'm saying is not valid. The position is that an object or a system has a purpose like woven or embedded into it objectively in reality, which is of course nonsense. Us humans, subjective value. We value things differently, we desire things differently, and we look at things and make up purposes for them. Or sometimes we come up with a purpose and we try and craft something that satisfies it. The point of the saying is, if you develop a tool, and every time you activate that tool, it does something, I don't know, it jumps up, and you're like, no, 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 this thing's purpose is to fall down. But every time you activate it, it jumps up. Yeah, but its purpose is to fall down when you activate it. Yeah, but it never does that. It only ever jumps up. That's the point that the guy, I forgot his name, was trying to make. The government's purpose is to protect us. Yeah, but it never does that. It only ever makes us more vulnerable or actively harms us or hurts us. Yeah, but the purpose of the government is to protect us and keep us safe and to protect our rights. But it never does that. So what makes you think that's its purpose? That's the point.
Good example of this is, to use like the economic sense, the purpose of the central bank is to facilitate money for government deficits. Now, what they claim the purpose of the central bank is, oh, you know, stable prices and full employment. No, the purpose of the central bank is debt monetization. Yeah. The purpose of the central bank is to facilitate funds for the federal government to spend on gender programs in Pakistan. Yeah. Right? Because the purpose of a system is what it does. And when you adopt that framework of looking at how political processes work or social institutions operate.
I think a better version of the saying would be the purpose of a system can't be what it never does. Or you should never say the purpose of a system is that which it never does.
What you end up ultimately concluding is that libertarianism is not a mechanism for you to win. It's actually a defeatist approach because, you know, it's something that they...
Okay, whatever he's about to claim libertarianism is, supports, or does, I guarantee you it's going to be wrong. But let's see what he says.
I think you and Tim Pool actually brought up once when you were on his podcast. And Tim Pool said something along the lines of, you know, for a long time, I was a free speech absolutist. And, you know, the whole Voltaire line, you know, I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death, you know, for your right to say it. And now I'm realizing that I'm defending to the death the right of people who, the second that they have the ability to do so, they will take my rights away from me. So you know what? I will happily oblige you. If you want free speech for everybody, I will defend it. Even if you disagree, is if you're consistent in your approach to, again, theory, philosophy, government approaches, if you're consistent in how you want to treat people, regardless of whether or not you're in power or I'm in power, if you actually do believe in this, then I will defend it. But if you hold the view that the second that I have political power, I'm going to oppress you and I'm going to take your rights away, then I will happily oblige you and I will take your rights away. And
this is super weird because what he just said is the libertarian position. You don't have to recognize the rights of people that are your aggressors. If they want to violently coerce and control you and ignore your rights, you have no onus to continue respecting or reciprocating rights with them. That's the libertarian position that he has stumbled backward into. But I don't think he knows that.
And I will stop defending your freedom of speech the second that somebody comes after it. Yeah. What this is it's a post-liberal or post-libertarian approach to handling political debates. And I think that's the direction that the right is going, which is
that's not the libertarian position. The libertarian position is you are an individual. You owe nothing to anybody that doesn't deserve it or reciprocate it with you. If somebody attacks you or coerces you or threatens you, you don't owe them the continued respect of rights. You don't need, it's not the libertarian position to go around being the champion of the rights of the cartels. I think that would be silly. That's not the libertarian position.
Abandoning the traditional absolutist, look, we believe in the philosophy because the philosophy is good and it doesn't matter who's in charge. I will always defend the philosophy. And now they're realizing the philosophy is being used to bludgeon ourselves. And so, you know,
it's equating the libertarian position with these, what's the lawyer organization that used to defend the constitutional rights on both sides? Is it the ACLU? It doesn't matter. Anyway, they used to stand for this sort of blind defense of constitutional rights. And, you know, I suppose it's true that the Constitution even defends the rights of the violent. Now, this is a distinction that most people don't really think about. Most people think, well, everybody has natural rights. And I oftentimes find myself sort of shaking them and saying, hey, I don't think you've thought about this all the way, but if everybody always has rights, then self-defense cannot exist. Because when someone's attacking you, you need to be able to attack them back. And if they always have their rights, if everyone always has rights, then you don't have the right to do that. And you've created an asymmetrical lose-lose, always lose, guaranteed loss situation. The way rights actually work, and you can read my paper that I co-wrote with a guy named Christian, antisubjectivism.com. /manifesto if you want to read it's like a 10-page paper, but it makes the point that we afford rights to the people that deserve them and we withhold them from the people that don't. And specifically that would be the violent people, the coercive people, the non-aggression principle violators. We don't afford them rights. Anytime you defend yourself in any capacity against a person that's attacking you, you are denying them their rights. Justifiably. A little bit of a side rant, but that's the distinction between sort of a well thought out, refined libertarian position and sort of the old liberal position where everybody always has rights. And the ACLU, if that was the lawyer group, I can't remember, I think it was, they would go and defend Nazis or whatever. Like if a person is violent or espouses violent ideas or espouses that you shouldn't have your rights and you should be able to be attacked, why the hell would you run to their defense to defend their rights in the face of their violent threats? That's the point I wanted to make. There's a distinction between liberal and sort of the modern refined libertarian position.
You know what? I'm done defending the rights, freedom of speech, because they won't respect mine. I'm done defending the rule of law because these people don't believe in the rule of law, because the second that they have control over federal law enforcement, they weaponize it against our political enemies. Okay, fine. You want...
Okay, so are they going to see the problem and fix the thing that's broken, which is the power structure itself? Or are they going to attempt to become as bad as the commies?
You want to play that game? The second we're in charge, imagine what we're going to do with the FBI or you know, the Attorney General's office or the DOJ or any of these federal agencies, because we've played this game that, you know, these are supposed to be neutral institutions. You've now told us and shown us there is no such thing as a neutral institution. At first, there might be a neutral institution, but eventually one side will take over the institution and then weaponize it against their enemies and mold it into pushing a set narrative. Well, I don't want the culture.
And so what's the answer? To try and fight over the institution more, and when you get in charge, be more of a tyrant against the other people in retribution? Or is it to end the structure of involuntary coercion?
For Marxists to be ruling all these institutions, I want conservatives to be ruling these institutions, because I think conservatism provides the foundation for a stable and just society. So I'm not going to fight for neutral institutions anymore. I'm not going to fight for just bland philosophical universalist libertarianism, where again, I will defend your right to do whatever. Because guess what?
I'm just pointing out again, I think that would be more rightly called liberalism, not libertarianism.
You don't respect that type of stuff.
Tim Pool summarized it as, he goes, I used to believe I'll fight for your freedom of speech no matter what. Now I will fight for your freedom of speech, provided you're someone that believes in freedom of speech.
Okay, that's enough. These guys, I think I've made the point. These guys are discovering the libertarian position and calling it post-libertarian. Oh boy, this has been causing quite the stink. I know this channel is definitely specifically not interested or involved with the Libertarian Party, but man, it's fun to look at it sometimes from the outside and just chuckle at the rat's nest of conflicting snarled principles that they are trying to keep on the rails unsuccessfully. So what's been happening recently is the party either invited Trump or was approached by Trump and then extended an invitation, following which they said, maybe we should also invite Biden, following which a bunch of libertarians are like, what the hell? Why are you inviting these statists, these Republicans, to our Libertarian Party when we have our own candidates? To which the other side is like, because it's good, it's going to get a lot of eyeballs and attention on the party. And then the other people are like, well, why even have our own candidates if we're just going to platform there? Let me quickly read this and see if it says anything good. I missed the name of the person that gave it to me. Trump to address Libertarian Convention in move that has members debating merits. Donald Trump will address the LP, the Party National Convention in a move that promises publicly for America's largest third party, promises publicity for America's largest third party while giving Trump an opportunity to shake some non-uniparty votes in his direction. At the same time, however, Trump puts himself at risk of enduring hostile elements in the crowd aimed at a candidate with many decidedly non-libertarian tendencies. The Libertarian Party's candidates have a lot of those of their own, but let's move on. Trump's pending appearance has also exacerbated some divisions within the party, with some members questioning the wisdom and propriety of putting Trump in the libertarian spotlight, and others are saying it's a smart move for multiple reasons. Quote, for 50 years we've been trying to get our candidate on the main stage with major party POTUS candidates, and we've finally succeeded in bringing one to our stage, said Libertarian Party Chairwoman Angela McArdle. We will do everything in our power to use this incredible opportunity to advance the message of liberty. My first reaction, I think, is still my best reaction to this. Fine, they're playing politics, which involves trying to get attention on them. Most of them only tangentially respect or understand the principles that they try and represent anyway. If you get Trump to come and stand in front of a bunch of libertarians to speak, there's a really good chance that you're going to get some really good headlines out of that, which might get your group of people, your party, extra attention that it wouldn't otherwise get. Like, can you just imagine some of the stuff Trump might say, the statist garbage that he might say, much less if they're able to, ask him a few questions and he could just give some nonsense responses, some statist Republican socialist responses, and then the whole crowd boos President Trump. Wow. That would be glorious. I would definitely enjoy eating popcorn watching that. And vice versa, if they're able to get President Peepaw on the libertarian stage. Same for the other guy. The RFK Jr., absolutely not a libertarian guy on the stage. There's some good opportunities for some pushback that you wouldn't get at these other events when they're talking to their own crowd and their own camp. So that could be a good thing. Your ideas need to be put next to the oppositions so that both become more starkly apparent and contrasted from the rest of the grayness of the others. When I was debating, I did 2 gubernatorial debates in Texas when I was running, and there was never a time when libertarian principle was so crystal clear as when I had someone standing next to me advocating for something unlibertarian. If we all stand up there and mostly agree about most of the principles and positions, then it's kind of hard to really make a distinction, or to maybe even for the new people know what libertarian principle is. But when you have somebody that is for coercive taxation funded schools, as 2 of my opponents were, it was very easy to stand there next to them and say, guys, this is the libertarian principle. Taxation is extortion. Stop it. You can't do that. That's violence. And you certainly can't do it to go fund some other state institution, one of the worst, most destructive state institutions, that is state schools, public schools. Being able to stand next to people that are wrong and say these things is huge. And so you get Trump on the stage, and then afterwards you have a Libertarian Party candidate get up there and tell everybody exactly why he's wrong and show their work and show the math. It's great. It's good stuff. The only thing that kind of upset me a lot of times when I was involved with the party, back when I was, is that they just have a way of acquiescing to demands to disarm people in attendance at their events, which to me is just a hopeless contradiction of their own stated goals and principles. If they want people to be free to defend themselves and to have the tools of self-defense, then they need to stop going around goddamn disarming everybody at all of their events all the time as if they're, you know, just anti-gunners like all the other parties. And so at their event, if they're going to have, you know, former presidents there and these other presidential candidates there, I'm pretty sure the Secret Service is not going to allow them anywhere near the place if everybody hasn't been disarmed. That's the kind of cuckoldry that you can always trust to get out of the Libertarian Party. Part of the good stuff that comes out of having these conversations and events and inviting people that you disagree with, though, is that you get great breakdowns of topics, just like this one from the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire Twitter account, where they broke down, well, I'll just read it to you because this is good stuff to know. And look, guys, as the left goes more insane and more actually tyrannical, you can guarantee and fully expect that the right is not going to just die. They're going to, well, I mean, it's interesting. They're going to do a little of two things. One, like that video we just watched of that dude being like, well, we'll just do what the left does and use the coercion of the government just like they did, as if the other guy doing bad things justifies them doing bad things. So what the right does half the time is they follow what the left does, just slower and worse, and more, they're going to be more shit at wielding government power than the left is. They're going to do a worse job, and they're just going to drag us all down the path faster because of it. The other half of what they're going to do is become farther, more extreme right and start pushing the fascism and socialism from their side's perspective in their direction. And to the liberty lovers, of course, that's, you know, both parties are sprinting and pushing away from actual liberty. They're just going to be kind of in a slightly different angle away from liberty rather than turning around and going back towards it. But yeah, they are awakening the terrible aspects of the right. The left awakened through societal terrorism over many years. They are awakening some terrible, terrible aspects on the right that have been dormant, invisible, non-existent, died off until the left resurrected them for us to all have to deal with. So let's just read this tweet. Donald Trump has been invited to the LP National Convention. In honor of this invitation, we're doing a deep dive roundup of the far left socialist presidency of Donald Trump. The Trump presidency was one of property seizures, gun grabbing, anti-white racism, and more. A thread. Let's start with COVID. Donald Trump supported the very first COVID lockdown on March 16th, 2020, announcing, quote, 15 days to slow the spread. Get ready, guys, because as the as the right rises, is what I was trying to say, becomes more sick of the left's tyranny and start pushing for their own tyranny, we as liberty lovers, who have been probably just used to telling the left that they're wrong and attacking that direction, get ready, because we're going to have to start attacking the other direction just as much as the left, because they're losing their minds on that side as well. Okay, after locking down America, Trump got to work printing money, a favorite socialist pastime. In total, Trump printed over $6 trillion, far more than his fellow socialist, Joe Biden. Trump signs historic $2 trillion stimulus after Congress passes it Friday. Here's a graph showing the printing of money spiked up to $4 trillion under their boy Trump. And it looks like, according to this graph, Biden has only done about 2.3 or 4 trillion thus far. Donald Trump's COVID socialism continued from here as he seized the property of millions of Americans with an eviction moratorium. Straight up communism, ladies and gentlemen. from the right specifically, and it wasn't called out enough. Donald Trump has the same belief in property rights as an illegal squatter. Well said. Here's a headline: Trump administration announces nationwide eviction moratorium through the end of the year. Did Trump change his mind on any of his COVID actions by the end of his presidency? Nope. On the way out, he gave rewards to COVID tyranny architects Fauci and Birch. Headline: President Trump awards presidential commendations to Operation Warp Speed team. Trump's socialism extends beyond COVID and money printing. Trump also has a socialist take on gun rights. Bump stock bans and red flag laws were part of Trump's presidency. Here's another headline: Trump says take guns first and worry about due process second in White House gun meeting. This right there, when he steps foot on the Libertarian Party stage, should get him booed, not applause. People cut him so much slack, even amongst libertarian circles, for some stupid reason. One of the few areas we agree with Trump is that he was a target of the embedded American bureaucracy, which is why Trump's desire to reward the FBI is even more inexcusable. And they quote a tweet from Trump where he says, the FBI headquarters should not be moved to a faraway location, but should stay right where it is in a new and spectacular building, blah, blah, blah. Next tweet: some people want to believe that Trump isn't woke, but even this isn't true. The Trump administration sued Dollar General under the Civil Rights Act for refusing to hire criminals, claiming it was racism. And they quote a headline here: according to the EEOC's lawsuit, Dollar General, the largest small box discount retailer in the United States, violated federal law by denying employment to African Americans at a significantly higher rate than white applicants for failing the company's broad criminal background check. In summary, the legacy of Trump is lockdowns, $5 trillion plus in new spending, $18 billion on Operation Warp Speed, dismantling right-wing social movements, gun bans, red flag laws, woke lawsuits against private actors, done with MAGA socialism. Vote Libertarian! All right. Oh, and then somebody sent me this. If you didn't already think that the party was, the Libertarian Party was a hopeless embarrassment to our values, check out this thing that somebody sent me. This is a letter to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. By Team Kennedy, hand-delivered. It's an invitation to seek the Libertarian Party nomination for president. This letter is written to you on behalf of the following undersigned Libertarian Party state party leaders throughout the United States who will be attending May 24th to 26th. Understanding your interest in the Libertarian Party presidential nomination and the shared concerns we have with the direction of the country that you highlight in your presidential campaign and the solution that only free market capitalism can bring, offer this letter as an invitation to you to seek the Libertarian Party presidential nomination. There is a group of people, the chair of the Party of Washington, the chair of California, the chair of Vermont, chair of Florida, chair of Tennessee, chair of Minnesota, chair of Colorado, the chair, vice chair, and delegation chair of Nebraska are asking him to seek the Libertarian Party nomination. What a dumpster fire. And you know what? They might actually accept it. Why? Because they're playing a political game where they have to do a few things. One of them is maintain ballot access. If they don't play a smart enough, effective enough, statist enough chess game, if they don't jump through enough statist hoops, then the party's candidates drop off ballots in various states and eventually from the presidential ballot. And so, you know, if they feel like they don't have any really strong candidates that the entire country would pay attention to, which might endanger their ballot access, they might just put a guy that is absolutely not libertarian on their ticket so that they maintain that precious ballot access, because we know that's so much more important to these party members than the principles. Embarrassing. We're going to leave it there for today, boys. That was a long first one, but I'm going to leave you with one thought that keeps coming to mind, and I tweeted about it recently, and it's the idea of interpreters and how they're able to leverage superstitions for power over people's minds. If you think back through history, all of the superstitions when something is a superstition, it's not real. Or if it's very far separated from something that you yourself can test and experiment with and see firsthand and know firsthand and learn from and experiment with and touch. Like, I don't know, like let's say the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics or quantum field theory, or, you know, these really difficult things that the average person has no conception really of how to actually go and do anything with, or the equipment or the resources. That stuff too. So it could be like the advanced science, that can be some of it, like we saw with like the we're gonna screw up the channel on YouTube. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, go use Odyssey. Anyway, so you know some of the science that we've been subjected to over the recent years, but it very much more strongly goes for things like religions and mysticism and woo and people that call themselves practitioners, or people like the mediums. Anybody that says that they have a source of truth or knowledge that the common man can't access. And this could literally be anything. Like it could be the Christian God or the Muslim God or any religion's superstitious ideas about the one truth or the source of everything. Almost always, whatever these sources are, they're things that the common man can't readily access, can't touch, can't interact with. They need holy men. They need experts in the case of some of the more eclectic sciences. They need practitioners and mediums to talk to the spirits that only these certain people can see, and only the high priests know the true will of God. And throughout history, this is how it works. The people that claim to be the intermediaries between the source of truth and the common man, those are the people scamming everyone for power and money and influence. Those are the scammers. And when it comes to things like science, you can't just make a blanket statement like you can for the real superstitions, like the religions and things like that. But you still need, your red flags need to go up, your guard needs to go up, and you need to be careful. Anytime somebody wants you to allow them to be your interpreter of truth around any idea, me included, like, I want you guys to think for yourself. Anytime somebody does that, they want you to put them in a position of power or influence. They want to be your interpreter, your medium, whatever. Your hackles should go up and you should be cautious. They might have good intentions and they might be right about whatever they're talking about. And maybe they are just the actual expert, because being an expert in complex fields is definitely a thing. Okay. It's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the woo. I'm talking about the religion. I'm talking even the more religious aspects of science. Anytime somebody wants to be the go-between, they're trying to be the power broker over your life. Be careful. Watch out for that. That's the last thing I wanted to say. Guys, go check out the website, v.anarchast.com. It's a pretty simple form. You can enter your name if you want me to know who to call you. You can enter your contact information in case I have any questions and you want me to be able to hit you up, Telegram, Signal, Session, etc. And then at the bottom, you enter your question, your comment, your argument against me if you think I'm wrong, or your compliments, or your link to a video, or to a funny meme, or whatever. Put your links there. Tell me why you want me to see it. If you link me something long, like a 300-page book or a 2-hour video, I'm not going to watch it. Don't spam me. I don't have time for this. But if you do link me something long, but you want me to look at a specific part, make sure you remember to put the page number or the time code. And maybe we can do more of these and have some fun. So if you see something out there that needs a solid libertarian perspective, let's try doing this segment for a while and we'll see how it goes. Everybody, thanks for watching. Peace, love, and anarchy.